Hi there, it's Paulie here. Yay! A real pleasure today. One of the earliest role-playing games was Tunnels and Trolls, which I have reviewed here. Tunnels and Trolls was a simple game. It was simpler than Dungeons and Dragons. In many ways more fun because it just kind of went for the mayhem and forgot to bog down in the details. So it was a preferred game for many people. Now, Tunnels and Trolls had a spin-off game which was a thing of glory called Monsters, where you could play a monster. You could play anything. And that was a absolute riot playing that. You can play as like one of the things that you're normally beating up on as a player. So you can be a vampire trying to start a lair and collect your brides. Or I played a great game once as a wandering giant spider and just had that time of my life, just wandering around being a big old spider and going off on adventures and climbing up cliffs and climbing down into dungeons. And I think I fought through a lot of the solos, some of the arenas and so on, and just fantastic. But weirdly enough, there haven't been any spin-off games from these until now, and someone has done one, which is the delight. The Lair of the Leopard Empress. So this is they say it's a spin-off of Monsters. Well, it's a spin-off of the current Tunnels and Trolls. The two are one. Basically, the two are one. So this is taken as its rules inspiration the current iteration of Tunnels and Trolls, which as a rule set, the new Tunnels and Trolls did fix some niggles and inconsistencies that could kind of screw up play in the old rules. So great. But as you can see, this is a substantial piece of work. It's a hardcover. Okay, it's beautifully produced. It's full of cool color art and so on. Caveat on that. Okay, so there are no art credits in this. But it does say that the company has generated the artwork. So I'm gonna take a wild guess that this is AI artwork, which may stick in some people's craw. They've obviously worked and laboured to make this work. Look, in many ways, I know as an independent designer that this kind of stuff, this is what people expect in a book nowadays, and you can't afford it. You just can't. If you find the cheapest artist in the world that's your bestest friend, they're still going to charge you $300 or $400 for a color piece. And if you're trying to illustrate, what is this, a 400-page book, 400 pages, and you've got original artwork on at least a quarter of those, that's 100 piece of art. So okay, so I guess this is kind of what AI was for. So anyway, that's the caveat there. However, they've done a really good job. So the game. So this is kind of a slice of the Tunnels and Trolls world. They've set up their own section far away from the regular TNT world where they can set up their own thing. They've set up a really cool little continent. I love it. It's got this kind of groovy cat theme to it. And that cat theme, Leopard Empress thing comes all the way through this. This book sets up a considerable history for this area with ancient history in different groups. But as it stands at the moment, there is, the Leopard Empire, which is this kind of evil autocratic empire run by this nigh immortal Leopard Empress, who's got her sort of guards, and you basically toe the line, otherwise they sacrifice you to their leopard gods. And there are different regions which have their own governors and generals and so on, and they have set up court intrigue and all sorts of nice stuff there. So the world has a grip to it. The world has intrigues and fights and spying and assassination and courier jobs and all sorts of things kind of built in from this. There are other areas which are this area was once under the sway of this kind of serpent cult, which was like an evil serpent cult, and elements of that are still there. This is a very corrupting cult, so there's like an underground evil, but there are some areas here where it's way more above ground. You don't go into this area because, you know, serpent cultists really are there. So anyway, they've made it quite a rich world. There are jungly areas. Elves, complete bastards. They've made it's kind of a jungle elf group. Again, these guys have a sort of a big cat theme to them. They're sort of leopard riding elves and so on. These guys are cannibals. You go in there, they'll eat you. You know, these guys are horrible. They're an old elven civilization, but it's like everyone else is just meat to them. They'll just, like, you know, kill you as soon as. There is like a more, what you would think of as more like a high elven culture elsewhere. They're bastards because they kind of exist by essentially draining magical power out of things, and they'll just casually do it to you. If you're in their area, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just steal half of his power points and walk on. Yeah, they won't ask. They'll just do it. If too many of them do it, you might drop dead. So you've got to be kind of careful going to elven areas. So as a part of this, you will choose your kin, what sort of group you come from, and there is a considerable number of kindred that you can come from. Each of these has a series of kind of special abilities built in, and a whole range that you can choose from as you're creating your character. Now, how the TNT system works. Essentially, you're rolling for characteristics, you're rolling 3d6. However, there is a rule of triples. If you roll the same 3 numbers on a dice, you keep that and roll again and add it. If those are triples, you keep that and roll it and roll it. So you can start, you know, with quite high characteristic values. This is a game where your starting characteristic values will be the lowest they ever are. Experience in this game expresses itself by massively increasing those characteristics, not abstractions of increased experience that just give you bonuses here and there. When your highest characteristic is at a set level, you are said to be, you know, at a higher level, which means that you do start to get bonuses for other things. But in general, task resolution, saving throws, this sort of things, you have a saving throw system, which is 2 dice based. You're rolling 2 dice, you're taking a number, that number is the difficulty level of the task, and you're basically subtracting your characteristic from that number, and then you're rolling that number higher on 2d6. So the nastier something is, the higher it is. So in general, like a low level saving throw is going to be 20. Subtract your characteristic. All right, I've got a perfectly average dexterity of 12 and I need to dodge the spear trap. 20 minus 12 is 8. I need an 8 or higher on 2 dice to beat it. However, if you roll doubles, again, you keep the doubles and roll again and add it, so you can snowball and get much higher values. So this is a constant theme in the game. Combat is done interestingly. What you get is a number of adds, combat adds, for certain characteristics being above average. So if your strength is above average, if your dexterity is above average, if your intelligence is above average, if your luck is above average, each point above 12 gets you a +1 combat add. On the other hand, each point those things are below 9 gets you a negative. Add these up, and these are your combat adds. Now, you pick whatever weapon you are using. That gives you a number of dice that you roll. There are requirements of dexterity and strength to use different weapons. So you go shopping for something that you can use, and that will give you a number of dice. I'm using a broadsword. It does 4 dice. Good. 4 dice. I said I was like 12. I was average dexterity, but I am 15 luck. So and my strength is average. So I've got +3 for my luck. So I'm rolling 4 dice +3. That's my combat roll. Your opponent will also make a combat roll, and essentially the larger value will subtract the smaller value from it, and the remainder will be damage that goes on the loser. Armor absorbs damage. Now these guys they have fixed a problem with the original. The original game had like pretty substantial numbers for armor, so it could sometimes get really hard to hurt each other if you had very similar values. I'm rolling 4 dice, you're rolling 4 dice. Good, but my armor absorbs 10. What? So I'm rolling 4d6 minus your 4d6, but I have to get more than 10 points to even injure you from that remainder. Yeah, so they've whittled that down. Another thing they've kept, bless them, is they're called spite dice. Any dice that you roll that scores a 6 will do 1 point of damage to the other guy. So just from tiring, whittling down, bashing into them, tire, whatever. So at least you, in an extended combat, you will start whittling each other down, and the one that's essentially rolling a ton of dice will start, pinging these 1 or 2 points into you. For monsters, you have a choice. You can have a monster rating, which is their hit points, and for every 10 of these, they're getting a dice. And as you do damage to them, the dice that they roll in combat will go down, so it'll snowball down and you'll beat them. That is for kind of monsters that are a quicker win. You kind of want them to snowball out of the way, minions and things like this. Or you can give them full-on stats and full-on dice, and there's tons of monsters in here that are done in exactly that way. These are their hit points, these are the dice they roll, these are their adds, this is their armor. You can do aggregate creatures as well, so a swarm of bats or a horde of cultists or whatever become an aggregate creature. And in that case, they do suggest that as you do damage, they go down, because it's representing that you've whittled down the number of, cultists who are trying to, throw rocks or hit you with brick bats, or, you've whittled down the number of giant rats that are leaping and trying to bite you. So, it's got a nice feel. So again, you can make the game your own by massaging these creatures to suit what you want. But yeah, there's a huge array of these different kindred and callings that you can take. Each nation area has a whole stream of different things you can be from there, and they've all got their own unique flavors. The idea of this was to have kind of a super heroic feel to it, so you're not just kind of sword wavers. You are people that you can be someone from the Leopard Empire, that you have leopard blood in your DNA, so that you can sprout claws or something and fight. Or you could be a shape changer that can turn into a leopard to fight. You can be someone that's got like a fine sheen of fur on you, or you've got sort of feline charisma and these sorts of things. So, or some of the dwarves are like literally self-made men. They seem to be kind of almost mechanical. There are orcs, there are goblins, there are people from polar regions, there are people from jungle regions, there are river traders, there are river pirates, there are ocean pirates, there are swashbucklers, there are sages, there are countless local magician variants, all of which with their own special abilities to choose from, etc. Now, to start the game, you get a couple of special abilities that you choose. You have to choose ones essentially from your kindred and so on, or from your profession. So, all right, my kindred is, I'm from those leopard people. All right, I want to take sort of the svelte kind of leopardy thing, and but I'm my profession is as one of these mage types, so I'm going to take something that gives me some bonuses on casting magic. As you gain experience, you can spend that on increasing your characteristics. Obviously, that's important because it allows you to pass nastier and nastier and nastier saving throw rolls. But it also adds to your combat adds. But the other thing you can spend them on is more and more special abilities, which essentially makes your character literally go from mundane to being able to do very non-mundane stuff indeed, shape changing or flying or mental powers, psychic powers, all these sorts of things. This is where they come from. So the sky's the limit on that. This book, like I said, a very substantial book, and what it does is it builds out that whole world. So it then goes on, it describes every region, what creatures you find, what the culture is, what sort of people you'll encounter there, what the towns are, and so on. You know, it gives you this whole world that is built. It gives you lots and lots also of cults and guilds and fraternities, brotherhoods that you can join. Scattered all through here, and these are like special orders of knighthood, special orders of magehood, wilderness guardians, trade associations, this sort of thing. Each of these has a stream of special abilities that you can buy into only from being a member there. So these things also give you your options. You can enter these essentially only through role play. You have to find these things and join them, and they will give you codes of behavior and jobs and things you have to do. Some of these are quite simply like adventure societies where, you know, they're a great way of finding jobs. Others are literally a nightly calling. You are fighting for the honor of this queen, or you are fighting to preserve this ancient nation, or you are fighting to somehow drive back the evil serpent cult, or what have you. So that's kind of an extra layer of roleplay that's going to guide the subsequent fashioning of your character as you go on. They've got a really extensive bestiary here, and it's not just your normal creatures. It's full of like invisible men and golems and gorgons and, you know, hungry ghosts, and it's got the expected sort of undeady things and so on, but it does have a lot of flavour all of its own. So for those of you that have grown up with like a D&D monster manual under your pillow, yeah, you'll be able to surprise players with fresh new monsters, fresh new things, keep them guessing. They're not silly monsters. They're not something that someone's just cooked up as some silly way of getting a total party kill. You know, they're there for a rhyme, they're there for a reason. Most of all, they fit into this world they've built. It's a really nice world that makes sense. It's dangerous, but it makes good sense. Lots and lots and lots and lots of treasures. Again, lots of unique magical treasures and things. So they've done a very thorough world building job. So it's like, this isn't half bad for a single cover. So look, I think it's a sterling effort. It took Tunnels and Trolls, Monsters. It's the first game that has taken that core rule set and has built a new world and, you know, got it out there. So it's taken a robust and beloved old system and given us a new world to play it in, which is great. You know, I'm not sure why no one's ever done that before. But here it is. And what they did with it is a sterling job. This place has a flavour all of its own. It's got this whole animal cults thing running all the way through it. The Leopard Empire and this sort of like, there's lots of big cat cults associated with that kind of side of things. But there's also other animal cults, you know, wolf and bear cults and these sorts of things, and as well. So this is the thematic thing running through this area. But the history that they built for it and the cultures that are built for it, you know, give this place its own flavour. So it's an excellent piece of world building, and it does have the hooks in the world so that it actually makes adventures. It generates its intrigue, and the map is a place that you look at and sort of have a think about. Oh, you know, you'll just see a bit on the map and think, that's interesting. What is that? And then I can have a look and see if you've ever heard of it. What's your lore? It's like, oh, well, see, once upon a time this was, you know. Now you get the idea of where you might want to head off to. So, a sterling effort, really, really nicely produced, robust as hell, packed full of information, packed full of original material. It's not the same spell lists and so on that you would find in Tunnels and Trolls. They've made their own, and a lot of these are very, very unique to each of these different magic using types and so on from all these different areas and kindreds. So, you know, lots of very unique magic using sorts and lots of very unique character classes from other things. It doesn't have original TNT had a vast maze of weapons to choose from, and it was a bit ridiculous. No one's going to wander in around with like a broadsword and a shield. Not when you could use a turbuchi and a shotel. So, oh, what now? You know, it did. I have to admit, back in those days, I've still got my Stone's glossary of arms and armor, which is like when was that published? 1907, I think. It is the definitive book of every single melee weapon, or you know, every single low-tech weapon made on Earth. And yeah, it would send you racing to that to try and find what the hell this weapon is they've put in here. Oh, it's a it's a forward curving hook shaped sword. Yeah, all right, why not? Yeah, so it was full of that kind of stuff. This has boiled it down into more sensible weapons, so that, you know, the skill of the thing is just in making good characters, getting the flavour, not rules lawyership of, well, you just happen to see that thing that gives you a +2 bonus. So look, this is a beautiful work. You know, as I said, like the illustrations do bring it to life. It's got its own flavour, and it's really, really, really good to see a Tunnels and Trolls become Monsters engine game out there, because it's a good engine. It plays really well, and it deserves TNT deserves more attention than it got. It's been around a long time, and it's loved for a reason. And that reason, I think, is that it's always been something that doesn't snow you down with charts and tables, and instead just went for flavour and fun. And as such, it's got a definite place, you know, in the modern RPG universe. It's still, those strengths are still really good strengths today. So anyway, worth taking a look at. It's you know, it's available up on drive-through and so on. I'm hoping they'll do some more with it. It looks like something that they'll be able to get a lot of game adventures and supplements and so on out for. And look, if you're looking for a system that's not going to charge you, you know, a ton of money to get a license for, yeah, try Tunnels and Trolls. Anyway, I do hope you like the reviews. Tell people about the channel. Hit like, hit subscribe. Find me on Patreon. The Patreon fees are used entirely to find games to review on the channel. Why? Because I'm poor, that's why. Anyway, I will see you guys next time round. Until then, keep gaming. Cheers, everyone. Bye.